Hey, welcome everybody to the Evolution Security Podcast. This is Aaron Davis and Eric Davis. We are the Tactical Twins. It is fun to be here for another episode and another fun jam and hangout session with my brother. How you doing, Eric?
Doing great, man. Just got back from a work trip from up in the occupied territory of New York. I will say I had a really good time. Part of it, and we'll kind of talk about this a little bit. Of course, I can't be armed up in New York, at least pistol wise. And I just decided I was going to carry on everything. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But, Aaron, I met a lot of awesome people. I would say a quarter of the soldiers that I supported are, of course, they're National Guard, at least this trip. And these soldiers, man, a quarter of them are NYPD, New York City police officers. And I got some interesting stories to say about those, tell, goodness, about some of the conversations I had with them. And frankly, man, they don't care for the direction both the city, the state, and this country's headed, as it relates to their job. But anyway, so what's up with you, man?
Well, bro, I've been quite busy lately. So today I finally had the windows tinted on my car. Actually, ran into a listener of the show that was at the tent shop, which was
Awesome.
really cool. Shout out to Steven. It was great meeting you today, buddy.
So just curious, Aaron, how did that conversation come up?
Oh, long story short, see my BCM hat?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He said, "Hey, you don't by chance play at Life Church, do you? Play guitar?" And I said, "Oh yeah." And he goes, "Well, I noticed your BCM hat, and I thought, man, that has to be that guy that plays guitar there." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, that's my favorite rifle company." And he goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I'm working on one. I haven't finished building it, but I'm building one." I said, "Oh man," gave him a fist bump. And I said, "Oh, by the way, I've got a podcast called Evolution Security." And he just kind of looked at me funny. He goes, "I listen to your show all the time."
Awesome.
And he had a buddy in the shop that listened to it that actually turned him on to our show. And I got to meet both those guys. It was fun having a conversation. Yeah, when I told him who I was, he recognized my voice at that point. But yeah, it was fun. It's great when we meet listeners in the wild at classes, etc. So
Yeah,
again,
that is awesome. Cool. Yeah, I mean, it happens from time to time. And it is neat because, it's humbling when folks really enjoy the show and they get something out of it, because, I mean, obviously this is a labor of love between you and I. And it's just cool when it benefits people because we know it benefits us. Again, we talk about that all the time, how
for sure mutual benefit. There's no doubt about that. But
absolutely.
So I also finally got my stereo installed in my new BRZ, and man, sounds great. But all of a sudden, the daggum subwoofer is kind of coming in and out. So I got something I'm troubleshooting. It's a real bummer. Man, you're just talking about a whole other world when it comes to car audio. I just feel completely lost, and some of the gear maybe I bought wasn't the greatest. We'll see, but I mean, it sounds great.
Well, when you say it's cutting in and out, it's like that it just completely drops out?
No, it's not like a short. You can hear it kind of coming in and out, and I thought maybe there's something wrong with my amp, but the rest of the entire system is powered by the amp, and it's just fine. Maybe it's the sub channel, maybe something else is going on in there, but I'm troubleshooting with the amp company at least. So
yeah,
no big deal.
It'd be nice if I wish I was local. I'd let you um, borrow my sub so you could, plug it in and see if it did the same thing. We
Yeah,
would
that
know.
that is one thing that I've wondered. Is it actually the sub itself? Since the amp it seems like the entire amp would go into protection mode if it was getting overheated by drawing too you know trying to push too many power, if the ohm load was too low, etc. But
It could also be that, what type of crossover do you have? Is it in the amp or
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Yeah, I would be interested to see, Aaron, I'm not an audio expert either. I'm just trying to put on my electronics, hat and see if I can make some suggestions. But,
yeah.
it's,
I'll figure it out.
yeah,
Or
it would
excuse
certainly be
me,
nice if you
some
had that
tech support will help me figure it out.
tool. Yeah.
Well, but I did want to say too. So yeah, this weekend also, I've been actually teaching a handful of private pistol lessons. Been having a lot of fun doing that out at the EvoSec range,
Awesome.
and I've actually got a couple of classes coming up. Wanted to mention that I have a ladies pistol class that is from um, starting from safety all the way to getting some fundamental pistol shooting in. That is April the 27th. It's starting to fill up, man. I'm pretty glad about that. And
Killer.
then we also have our defensive pistol 2, which is a follow up to the class I taught a couple months ago. That is June 1st. So check our show notes. There are Eventbrite links to those two classes if you're interested. But it seems like, let me make sure. Oh, I did that. That reminds me also, before we get into the next thing I wanted to say, is that also I want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, that is Tenacore. They do make the best carry gear available, in my opinion, especially for people that are carrying appendix and you're not going into deep concealment. I'm talking about the typical everyday kind of carry. I just don't think it gets any better than what Tenon Core offers in their holsters and their belts. But one of the students that signed up for my ladies class reached out and asked what holster and belt she should bring. And I'll be frank, in the show, in the class description, I said, holsters and belts are not required for this particular class, but recommended. So I sent her to Tenacore, and she bought a Khartoum 3 for her new SIG P365, and she got a zero belt on the way too. So I was pretty stoked.
So,
It literally took a couple of texts to get that done. So I
so
was pretty
Aaron,
stoked.
what I want to comment on is I sit here and think, and it joys my heart, man, because it's clear she likely doesn't have a carry rig.
Right.
So she signed up for your class. She doesn't have a rig yet. I mean, what an awesome opportunity for her to wait until she talks to you about it, and you get to. She's got a zero belt and a Khartoum. I mean, we talk about this on this show all the time about how individuals will buy their excuse me, their 5, 6, 700 or more dollar whole pistol, and then get a crappy holster and a crappy belt. But yet
Mm-hmm.
she's starting off the right way, with a killer rig with the zero belt and a Khartoum. Awesome.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I was stoked about that. And to be very clear, this kind of stuff doesn't fit everybody's dress, but I made sure what type of her what type of daily dress she wore, which was jeans and fairly loose fitting shirts. So I said, okay, then this is the road I believe you should go down. At least in your training and when it's feasible to carry in that looser clothing. But again, just wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor Tenacore and Jeff Mao. We're just so stoked. They've been with us since the beginning, and Just go to their website, tennecore.com, and they have a ton of great gear. My Velo 4 is my favorite holster that I've ever had. Just the best concealment, most comfortable, and then of course my Zero belt. I've got a handful of those too. But
Yeah, me too. And I just dry fired earlier, and it's so awesome to be able to walk into my closet. Of course, I had been mowing earlier, and so I was in some actually some Origin no-gi shorts, and I had my 43 in a holster. Actually, it's funny. Excuse me, I can't even talk right now. It was in a keeper's holster, which we still shout out to Spencer. Been a long time since we spoke with him. That's just an easy holster
yeah,
for
that's a great holster too, man.
but so after I did that, I showered and I'm like, it's time to dry fire. So I walked in my closet, put on my dry fire pants. Of course, it's got a Zero belt and a Velo 4 ready to roll. So yeah, I was thinking about that earlier as you mentioned that. Aaron, if I could mention one of our other sponsors, and that's Origin. So Aaron, I heard back excuse me, from John. I won't mention his last name. He's in charge of the ambassador program. And kind of a funny story. Um, I had texted Scott Jedlinski because he's in the ambassador program for Origin as well. And I said, hey man, have you heard anything from Origin on the new ambassador program? And he's like, nah, I haven't. And I mentioned that particular program was no longer, right? And so, which is a big part of, how we get support from Origin. And so I said, yeah, I haven't heard from him either. But I heard back from John, who's in charge of it. And he said, hey, Eric, incidentally, I was just on the phone with a guest that's been on your show, and somebody that is Scott Jedlinski. So, and he told me, he said, yeah, the ambassador program will be stood back up here soon. Just their website folks are putting out other fires, and they're working on it. So here soon we'll have another click through or some sort of way that you can support us for using and purchasing Origin gear. Again, the best jiu-jitsu gis made on the market. Man, they are blowing up the apparel
Yeah,
market. I really think, that a lot of their hunting gear and all that, they're really pushing that stuff hard. I'm real proud of what they're doing. So, Jocko Fuel, of course, is it's still part of Origin, but it's its own thing now. So folks, go out there and support both Jocko Fuel and Origin with your business, because man, they make everything here in the United States. And it's very important for us to try to support our folks in the States. So
and boy, I need to get some boots.
yeah, I want some boots, and I don't know why I don't have a pair of jeans.
True, true, true.
I'm gonna jump on there this week and order some jeans, and I'll report back.
Cool. Well, Eric, one thing before we kind of jump into the meat of the show, I did want to say congratulations on the air to my wife, Becky. She just got her fourth stripe on her blue belt. And, Eric, that's kind of dangerously close to purple, ain't it?
Oh yeah, I can't remember if I text you or her back on it, but I was with the way this year's went for my progress. I was gonna joke she's catching up with me.
Well, and nothing's changed. She still kicks my butt. So uh, I sound like a broken record on that. But again, jujitsu,
Congratulations, Becky. So proud of you.
yeah, she loves it. Okay, bro. I think I'm going to hand it off to you. We had a few things to talk about with your trip, I think.
Yes, and of course, I just went to New York for a work trip, and it made me think, this is one of our gear and mindset shows. Now, I'm going to talk about some gear that I keep in my bag that I use both at work and for trips. And, when you're traveling, on airplanes, there's certain stuff you just can't carry, right? And so I actually, I don't have it in this particular bag right now because I'd taken it out. Like anything that like has a blade or tools and whatnot, I have in a red pouch that I'd simply take out. And I learned that from Rich Brown of American Warrior Society, where there's a red pouch that I have that I pull out when I'm about to get on a plane, because otherwise that stuff stays in my bag when I'm at work. But anyway, for the audience members out there, we're not YouTube influencers. So this isn't going to be the most perfect video, but I think it'll be a good discussion, and I'll try to show a good bulk of what I have in this bag, and we'll see how this goes here in 1 second.
All right, bro.
So to start off, this bag is a Kelty Red Wing 30. Now, I'm just going to say up front, this is a newer bag, and I got this bag on sale. The way they framed it was that it was gray. Well, Aaron, I'm a little disappointed in this color. And it's not because, folks know that I'm former Army, but it's got almost like a ACU gray color. So, to be frank with you, it kind of looks like
Tactical.
Yeah. So, to be honest, this bag's likely going to go to my bug out bag that sits in my vehicle, which this is such an excellent bag for that very purpose. And man, I'm just going to go over and get the civilian version of this one, which I probably should have got in the first place. But I was like, oh, there's a gray Red Wing. I'll grab that. And it was on sale. So it could be because they weren't selling this color. But anyway, it never hurts to have an extra bag, when it comes down to it. But the concept behind this bag, I really like. It's a 30 liter. And I also like types of bags that are clamshell open. So I have some pictures of the way that this bag works clamshell wise and how the contents look inside. But I'm going to start taking a few things out. Number one, Aaron, I obviously we should always have water, right? And I have some other things to show here in a second, but there's a reason why I went with smart water bottles for the bulk of what I use, and that is relation to water. And the number one reason is, Aaron, they're light, and secondly, they actually interface with my Sawyer Mini filter. So, now the Sawyer isn't perfect for, like being on the road and certain viruses and certain other chemicals are not filtered out by that. But, in a pinch, I'd rather use that filter even on the road. Yeah, of course, if you were stuck somewhere where say, for instance, traffic's not moving or some disaster, and you have, water sources that you got to filter. Of course, that Sawyer Mini is perfect for that. Frankly, there's another filter that I'm going to get for travel, and I think it's called it's by Grail. I think that's something that I'm going to end up picking up for future travel, especially overseas. So let me get into this bag here. So that was the water, and there's more to come on the water. Of course, glass case and glasses case, that is, and I have a contact case in there. Aaron, what's interesting, see this Airborne?
Yeah.
So the cool thing about Airborne, excuse me, is of course it's good for if you come down with a cold. But Aaron, this is also an electrolyte source.
Oh yeah.
Like so you can use that for electrolytes, and I also typically keep electrolytes in my bag as well. So I'm just pulling things out. Some of our EvoSec cards, in this bag here. I've got a USB drive in here that I use for work stuff. And Aaron, this is it's by Die Sharp. Am I saying it right? Yeah, Die Sharp. Let's see if I can get that close in there in the camera. So this is just a card diamond sharpener that works really excellent. And in that same bag, Aaron, I've got some duct tape that I put on a card, for, all kinds of stuff you can do with Velcro, goodness, with duct tape. Little contact solution there. Ear Pro. I got some Ear Pro in here. Never know when you might need Ear Pro. You might be visiting a buddy and he says, hey, let's go to the range, and I've at least got some Ear Pro. Just some earbuds. I'll take them out. It doesn't hurt. And these are good old Army issue, but these are decent Ear Pro. A little boo-boo kit with, bandages and, antiseptic, little a few meds like Tylenol, anti-diarrheal, which can come important when you're traveling. You'll notice here I've got a lighter in there. You can take a lighter on a plane, no problem. I don't ever leave without a headlamp because I use that a lot at work. And, of course, in emergencies, those come in real handy. This is a diamond. It's got quite a few nice features on it. I will say this is getting a little dated, but that's all right. It works well for me. Okay, and this is the last thing I think in this particular pouch on the top. This is on the top of the bag. This is a extra battery for my ham radio that's in here. Open this pouch here. All right, Aaron, I always have food with me. I carry on the road. Got some keto bars in here and some tuna. I think I ate one of the tunas this time, so I got sometimes it is what we call refit, right? So I need to do a little refit in my food there. Of course, I have all my chargers and cables. Now, Aaron, another thing that you may not be able to still getting over this stupid cold, got me coughing a little bit, is, Aaron, I also have some wired earbuds in here because, in an emergency situation, you may not have charged earbuds, which you've heard me talk about. I like to think of earbuds as, kind of, go-to comms and, in an emergency, because you can have a call open on your phone. But if you run out of battery power, that kind of stinks. So I always try to keep wired earbuds with me as well. Keep all my stuff charged as well. So for the food, Aaron, I always have this spork. And, this goes with me everywhere. And when I can travel with a knife, so I have a spork and I have my knife, I don't ever need utensils because, I always go to the store and buy a bunch of food, and I at least have utensils. I don't have to buy plastic forks and plastic knives and all that BS. So that spork's always in there. Or some of this a little quick. Now, I always carry my ankle rig, my med kit, but I also keep in this bag a soft T tourniquet and some combat gauze. So, Aaron, this is my ham radio. This is a Yaesu VR6. Man, I tell you, it's funny. VX6. I can't see right now. Anyway, this is my Yaesu radio that, Aaron, does all kinds of stuff. It does ham radio. It also it works as a shortwave radio, which I have an antenna in my bag here, which I'll show here in a second. but also it picks up regular AM and FM stations as well. And of course, it transmits on ham bands. And you'll notice here this antenna here, and this is a ham stick. And Aaron, I wish I have to memory the metal that is used on this. I don't have it to memory, but this little antenna stays it wrapped up like that, and then of course you see it's back to normal.
That's cool.
And let me see if I can do this without. Let me show this on the screen here if I can. Kind of a little cool feature. Feels silly here. Oh well. Let's see if this works. You can kind of see it, but it glows. You can't really see it that well in this light, but a little thing I kind of like. I'm kind of a kid when it comes to stuff like that. But anyway, Aaron, this radio does a lot. Of course, for emergency, I can get in contact with folks on repeaters. I always have, excuse me, either program up repeaters in an
Hey,
area.
bro, you got something hanging down in front of your camera.
That's weird. Okay, I see. That's weird. So yeah, Aaron, this radio does, again, like I stated earlier, short waves, so I can pick up emergency information both in AM and FM, and of course, like I think I get somebody's on this repeater locally here. Interesting. Somebody's just transmitting. Move that away from that. But yeah, so that's my ham radio. Keep a couple extra batteries in there. Don't leave home without my Constitution, pocket Constitution. Notebook, of course. Always have a notebook. This compass here, Aaron, is a lensatic compass. Good old Army style lensatic compass. I've had this since I was a brand new E5 back in the Army in, what was that, 2003? And this thing has stuck with me ever since. Of course, this is for emergency land nav. I won't go into everything I got in here. Of course, I got good old Sharpie and pens in here for writing. Always have that in there. And this is a cheat sheet for my ham radio in case it's been a while since I programmed it. Oh, and Aaron, I don't know. Let me see if I can read I'm a brand new contacts, and it's funny. I need readers when I have brand new contacts in. Anyway, this is a cheap Chinese flashlight, but it's got like almost, I think it's close to 1,000 lumens, and it's on it has a little rechargeable AA battery. I just wanted to have an extra flashlight in here just in case. So that sits in there. See if there's anything in here I'm forgetting. Okay, so now I'm going to open the clamshell. So, Aaron, for my Sawyer, oops. I knew it was going to have a little snafu a couple of times. So I've got a platypus bottle that sits where my laptop goes. Of course, a laptop that I normally keep in here is being used right now for this show. So that platypus bottle I can fill, of course, with water for filtering. Of course, my notebook goes with me on the road, for, writing notes. You and I are pretty diligent about, our journal, using this for all kinds of important notes. My Kindle, Aaron, I love to read. When I'm on the road, I put more in this bag than just what I'm discussing right now. But I put books on this Kindle because it's real compact, and I have a ton of books on here, of course.
So, bro, it sounds like you've pretty much got a go bag that you bring with you on all your trips. Now,
Absolutely.
what what
Uh,
I'm what I'm kind of curious about is because you're talking about needing to pull your red bag out of there so you don't bring any blades or anything like that, especially on a trip like to New York.
mhm.
So, what is it that'll get you in trouble there going I mean when you show up there, I mean what's your plan for any protection, any weapons of any sort?
So interestingly enough, Aaron, um, so normally when I travel by air, if it's a state that I can carry, I bring a pistol with me, and I have my
Hmm.
Voltec safe that I bring with me that I can lock that up, cabled to the uh, the railing inside the shower, which is freaking pretty darn secure. And of course, I cover it up, a little bit of concealment. But in this, goodness, sorry, in this case, Aaron, I decided I was just going to carry everything with me and not check a bag. In this
Hmm.
case, I knew now in New York you can have pepper spray. I could have carried pepper spray, and of course, I could have packed some other tools as well. A fold or whatnot. But again, like in this case, I decided I was just gonna go with what I had on my person. And Aaron, I went to of all things, man, I went to Walmart and got me a cheap folder.
Yeah.
It was like $15, that I had to give up. And I actually gave it to a soldier. I was like, hey, would you like just a cheap, knife just to, use cutting things? And he's like, yeah, I'll take it.
So then that begs the question, you probably can't have fixed blades there.
Not to my knowledge, not
Yeah.
in New York State and Aaron. I I used to live there, of course.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember all of the blade carry laws there. Um, I'm going to tell on myself. I mean, I carried my clinch pick there. I probably could have gotten in trouble, but um, for that matter, Aaron, I've got a lock here that I can lock stuff up with, right?
Hmm.
With a little bit of improvising, you can have quite a handy tool, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Um, and so I had this with me, and I had that folder. That was what I had to protect myself. And my wife, was talking about it's gonna. I said it's gonna feel weird not having anything with me this trip. And she goes, "But you got these." She said, "You got those guns." She brought her fist up. We know that's important. But again, I did feel a little bit naked, but it's one of those things that I didn't go any stupid places. I certainly didn't go downtown New York City. I didn't have any desire to go there, which was only like 30 minutes away. But, it's one of those things, man. The likelihood is there, but again, I'm still the weapon, right? My empty hand skills, my awareness, all of that is what's going to likely keep me out of that trouble. It does suck not being armed with a pistol. But Aaron, one other thing that I have in this other bag here that had that, and by the way, this is another glow in the dark. This 550 cord is glow in the dark. Got several purposes for that, and this is an emergency um, blanket, Kevlar, not Kevlar,
I always want to
Mylar.
call
Pardon
it
me.
Kevlar
I
too.
know, Mylar blanket. Because so that means I've got shelter in here,
Hmm.
obviously. And Aaron, here's the wire for my shortwave antenna that I have a real small 1 to 4 um, that I connect this wire to, that I can pick up awesome shortwave and all kinds of stations around the world with that.
Can you pick up Radio Free America?
Yeah. Yep. The chair is against the wall. What was it? The um, Charlie has a short mustache or whatever it
Yeah.
was. I'm probably totally
I
screwing
think it
that
was
up.
long mustache, but
Yeah,
yes,
a
Radio
long.
Free America.
Yeah, and Aaron, this is a topographic map of my area that stays in my bag. It also happens to help me at work sometimes too. Um, Toiletries, bro. I keep this lightweight toiletry bag. Sometimes when I'm working and I decide I got too much stuff in my bag, I'll take this out and I remember to put it in here for when I travel. But I keep my toiletries in there, and I'm getting to the end of this bag of what I have in here right now. Now this is my Gore-Tex jacket, and this always stays in here. Good old Arc'teryx Gore-Tex. And in this pouch here, okay, I've got some important warm gear. So I got this badass Prometheus merino wool watch cap that, I mean, it's killer, man. I need to get some more of these because I'd be afraid.
What company is that?
Prometheus.
Ah,
Prometheus Design Works, I think, is the company. But man, this is the way to go when it comes to watch caps, man. I'll try to put the majority of those types of items in the show notes. We got some gloves here. I'm trying to remember this company here. Um, if I can read, Pig is the company, and of course this has, I got it in black multicam. I couldn't help that. I kind of dig that. So always have gloves, always have a hat, and I keep that in my bag year round, man. Just never know, during, some form of an emergency, those things will come in real handy. Now, normally I put my jacket in this pouch here, Aaron.
yeah.
These are some Osprey pouches, by the way.
I like their gear.
But Aaron, I got a pair of Exficio, I think is the way that you pronounce it, drawers there, and some merino wool socks. So I've always got a change of underwear and socks. And Aaron, typically I put one pair of pants and one shirt in here too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it in here right now because that's being washed. But so when I arrive, anywhere, especially locations where I had checked the bag, you can probably gather from everything that I've shown so far is that I could absolutely be just fine with what I have in my backpack. If my bag doesn't make it there. And one last bag, Aaron, I think I've gotten everything that's in here right now. Is I got another pouch here that has my Sawyer Mini in it, my water filter.
Oh yeah.
And
Pretty
man,
sure that's what I have. It could
of
be.
course, there's certain chemicals and certain viruses that it does not filter out, but it filters out the bulk of harmful things that you could run into out there.
So it's not advisable to find raw sewage and try and filter that out.
Probably not, but of course, Aaron, I've used this filter for anything on the trail. Straight up, you know, water that just looks like Keystone Lake.
Ew.
And filter that out. I mean, Nick and I just recently, well, I guess it's been a year and a half now. Man, this is what we brought to the field with us, and man, we straight up, our water sources were, dirty water sources, but filter it right out. I mean, that's what we use for, of course, our water source. So I don't know, man. Aaron, what you think? You got any questions about any of that?
No, it just makes me. I was when I was moving a few things around in my little BRZ, which again doesn't have much rear seat area, so I had to move some stuff in the trunk, and I had to scoot my go bag that's in my, I guess, what do we call them? Are they really go bags? Just emergency bag that's in it's
Yeah, that's kind of what I see.
in,
I'd see.
in my trunk.
Of course, the bug out bag is the popular nomenclature for it. But
I need to check. I've got food in there. I've got quite a bit of water. I've got my water filters, um, and I think I've got about four of those large smart water bottles that I have that solution that you and Brian told me about to, as a little preservative.
yep,
And I wrote the date on there. I don't think I've had those in there more than a couple of years. It might be 3 years now. I need to double check. But it's supposed to last for 5 years,
yep,
isn't it?
yes, that's correct. 5 years. Yeah, and that reminds me. I've got a note in my green notebook here, a to do item that I've got to change out some water in a bunch of my 5 gallon jugs. They're getting close to need to be rotated. So yeah, hopefully that was somewhat informative. It was a little bit haphazard because you know trying to do it here on the air with a mic in my face and not a perfect camera setup. But you know what? Again, we're not influencers on YouTube, but I thought it'd be kind of informative in my opinion. But yes, Aaron, to your
Well, I
point, go ahead.
yeah, I think one of the most important aspects is that people just, especially someone like you that has to travel in and out of states for work, having the ability to keep anything that could get you hung up in a very, very bright singular bag within the bag to pull that out.
And man,
Yeah.
I should have brought that in here. It's
Well, and there's
downstairs.
also I think that can't remember if it was I don't think it was our show. Um, I think it was Rich's own show that he did a real cool go bag
Oh,
segment.
yeah,
He
I
had some
think I
brilliant
recall.
ideas, man.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the one that you're talking about is the one where I got the idea of keeping all my, you know, issue items in that bright or it's more of an orange that I
And
like.
so
Yep.
that reminds me too, Eric. Some people should go back and listen to the interview I did with Daryl Bulkey right after I took that non-permissive environment counter robbery class. Boy, they had some amazing stuff that they suggested to carry. Like one of the things that he carries with him on planes is a very bright, um, like a type of toolkit, and some of that stuff is serious. I mean, you get to where you're going, and there's some darn good implements in that.
I
But
definitely like to know what he has and what he's carrying.
yeah, so I mean, they had a bunch of cool stuff. Him and Chuck Haggard, and of course Cecil Birch, all had some really cool ideas. But like another one was, I think Chuck mentioned it, was that hey, if you're on a cruise or something, getting a steak knife out of the dining room, having brought yourself a legal pad and some duct tape, and make yourself a sheath out of a legal pad cardboard and some duct tape, and then just sit that knife back down on the. I think he even said going offshore, he would take one of those each time and then just put it in the trash or gift it to somebody or something
And get
before he
another
got
one.
back on the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things, man. When I go places when I can't have weapons, I do the same thing. I find, somewhere where I've got the capabilities to grab a knife, and of course I typically carry something that I can use as a improvised sap, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, you can get creative, with what you have on hand, and at least have the capabilities in a covert manner, to have something that you can defend yourself with.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, bro, speaking of knives, and this isn't a positive note, but it just occurred to me. We were talking about using knives as defense weapons. I haven't seen a ton of this in the news, but there, of course, was that mass stabbing, mass murder in Australia, and it I'm digressing a bit, right? There's always the tripe that there's not mass killings in other countries because of guns and etc. But and of course our retort is always it doesn't matter what you tell them they can't have, even if you melted all the guns, okay, they're going to go to knives or cars. But I'm not going to go into that too deep, but I did want to at least read this article that was released. Let's see here. This is straight from AP, and it was 2 days ago. Police identified on Sunday the assailant who stabbed and killed 6 people at a busy Sydney shopping center before a police officer fatally shot him. New South Wales police said that Joel Cauchy, 40 years old, was responsible for the Saturday afternoon attack at the Westfield shopping center. Now, the new NSW Assistant Police Commissioner told reporters at a media conference on Sunday that Cauchy suffered from yet unspecified mental health issues, and police investigators weren't treating it as terrorism related. We're continuing to work through the profiling of the offender, but very clearly to us at this stage, it would appear that this is related to mental health of the individual involved. Of course, Eric, that's usually the case, is it not,
Oh
when
yeah.
someone commits a mass murder? But unfortunately, right? So this guy uses a knife readily available to him, and he goes to this mall and he kills 6 people, 5 women and 1 man aged between 20 and 55. They were killed in the attack, and another 12 were injured and remain in the hospital, including a 9-month-old baby whose
Mercy.
mother was killed in the attack. So, once again, I mean, this stuff happens all over the world, and this is still fairly common for knife attacks in these countries where there's strict gun laws. And Eric, there was a few days later, there was, and they are saying it is terrorism, where this 18-year-old guy walks up to a Greek Orthodox priest in the middle of service and starts stabbing him.
Where was this at?
That was also in Australia. Let me see. I don't have the article in front of me, but yes, it was in Australia also. So, but yeah, and they are saying that was terrorism. They said religious. It was a religious um, led attack. I guess I'm stumbling over my words, but
No,
it
no,
was
you're doing just fine.
religiously motivated, is what they said.
Well, and Aaron, this kind of comes to a couple of points I was going to make. Two things, and I'll hit on some terrorism issues here in a second, or possibility of terrorism. But Aaron, this to me is a great reminder, right? You know, if just like you said, if they are able to melt down all guns, there's no guns available. We know that there's still knives. We know there's still fists and feet. We know there's blunt objects. If a person wants to commit murder or mass murder, they're going to do it, through whatever means, like you also said, vehicle, and that's why it gets
Well,
aggravating.
in
Yep.
my
Go ahead.
opinion, if the guns were all melted in the United States, they would need to ban SUVs because that would be the next mass murder weapon. They'd be just anywhere where people could gather. There'd be people barreling over people with large vehicles.
Well, Aaron, one other thing. This is a great reminder because you and I talked about this some time ago, and this is from the crime research prevention. It's John Lott's website, and I'm just hitting on the highlights here. The FBI statistics seem to have had a boatload of errors in it, and it seems to be on purpose. Because remember,
Oh yeah,
that the media said, civilians actually don't, you know, defend individuals or defend the society against, active shooters, and of course we know that's false. It was stated as 4.6% when, depending on how you look at the numbers, it's actually more like 35.7%. And
but
go ahead.
just that a point on that is okay. What if it was just a 0.5%? Why does saying it's a low percent prove? What does that prove for the people against civilians that might protect other people?
Right, Aaron. And this is the most important part of John Lott's data here, is if you count out gun-free zones, 63.5% of the time civilians stop active shooter events.
That's right. That's right.
And that was the main thing I was going to say, is because we have this tragic event in Australia, and I think of that young baby,
Oh man.
it's just horrible, and yes, it's mental illness, but again, the Australian people had their gun rights taken away from them, many years ago.
And it's used as a prime example of, and of course, Kamala Harris recently talked about the model of Australia. Australia and other countries, including the UK, unfortunately take advantage of mass shootings to take freedom away from people. And that's exactly how it has occurred in every single country. That's what they try to do every time there's a mass murder with guns in this country. I know we've repeated that a lot. So, I mean, it still is worth noting that Australia is an example that they use as what they would like to do here.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, excellent point, Aaron. And Aaron, I think it's a good time for me to bring up another article that I was going to talk about. And you probably saw this. There's a few interesting factors in what some of the quotes I'm going to talk about here in a second, which I'll bring up here momentarily. And Aaron, you probably heard that FBI Director Christopher Wray cites an increased foreign threats in FISA reauthorization plea. And this was, I mean, he had been there a week before talking about the threats of possible terrorism. And let me see just a few of these quotes here. Ray, who spoke before lawmakers to discuss FY25 budget, said that his agency needed additional funding to protect Americans from terrorism, adding that there has been a heightened risk of violence in the U.S. since Hamas-led terrorists invaded Israel on October 7th, 2024. So so he states that, and there's a couple other quotes here. But Aaron, this is what I really want to hit on here. Ray also said, Aaron, he would be hard pressed to think of a time when so many threats to public safety and national security were all elevated at once, adding that it was the case as he set before them. So, and we got a interesting topic here just momentarily, Aaron. One of the things that he didn't state anywhere in his testimony to Congress was that the open border that his boss has continued to allow, and continues to allow, and the settling of illegal aliens via plane now, which I don't want to get on that right now, but they continue to allow illegal aliens of all sorts, including, we don't even know how many terrorists have made it through our border, which we also know, we've talked about before, is that the at least around 245 terror watch list individuals that have been arrested at the border in the last 3 years.
Hey, bro, I just don't want to forget to say this because it's definitely germane. That, forgive me, I don't have the article up here, but I did read an article yesterday that I believe it was in San Diego that
Yes.
that they have gone to literally just dropping illegal aliens off at just on the street, and these people in again, don't quote me, but it's in California. It's a city in California where gun sales have gone through the roof, and the people are saying it's all because they do not feel safe because they're just bringing more and more people that they're just dropping them off in the streets, no matter what their reason for it is. But there's a reason these people are concerned about their safety because of government border policy. So
Yeah, and Aaron, here's another, and again,
federal government.
we we talk about a lot of articles that we've read in the past, and I don't have this one in front of me either, but it's easily researched. So another program along the same exact lines that is actually even more insidious, the fact that illegal aliens can apply for asylum at the border, right? They cross the border illegally and say, "Hey, I'm filing for asylum." And then, of course, the current administration allows them to file for asylum, and they get their court date or whatever procedural action takes place. And of course, those individuals typically go to the United States and never to be seen again. But Aaron, there's also a newer program where illegals don't have to cross the border, go through that trouble, possibly, risking death, making that trek from whatever country it is and across the Mexican border or even the northern border in Canada. Aaron, you can, as a person that wants to file for asylum, can file for asylum and simply if you've got the money for a ticket to the United States, you can fly right into the United States at having requested asylum. And then at the point that you arrive, you are lost. That there's no record of you being an asylum seeker. And
Wow.
so, I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands have been, and of course they fly them into areas where it would do best to have, voters of the administration's preference. But anyway, it's to go back to what we're really talking about here, Aaron, is the threats to our own security in our own country,
That
and
have been on higher alert, and we haven't heard these higher alerts in a long time. When I say a long time, within the last couple of years they've been talking about increased levels, but I mean, Occam's razor. When you're when you've had the most illegal immigration basically in history, Occam's razor says that there's a bunch of dangerous people that have come
Yes,
here
absolutely.
without any effort from the entity, the federal government, the executive branch that has the authority to protect us from it, and actually the responsibility. But I don't want to go deep into that, bro. I think we're kind of getting to a pretty good stopping point, and kind of wanted to. I mean, we're kind of going into the same kind of thing that I mentioned talking to you about. It's kind of a funny little story. But first, I did want we rarely ever talk about reviews of our show, and and at this point, let me take a chance to remind people to go out to iTunes and listen notes. I think those are the only places I know that you can easily review
Yeah.
podcasts. But wherever you can review, please share our podcast and review our podcast, because that really helps us. And I'll give a couple examples here that we're talking about. But one new rating recently, and their name is a bunch of numbers: WC 987664321. I don't know why that's, but we appreciate your review here. It says, "Great show." They gave a 5-star review, and it says, "Content, guests, and hosts are killing it. Great show."
Awesome.
So we really appreciate those great reviews. It helps our show kind of trickle back up to the top. And again, we just implore you, just ask you to go out there and help us out with that. And you can also help offset at least one of these reviews we're going to talk about. It's interesting. Again, I hadn't really been looking at our reviews in a long time, because just it's not something you think about a lot. But I just happened to be on here and just wanted to read this from Cop246. This is a 1-star review, and it says, "Full MAGA, just a Trump commercial." And the funny thing is, I think this exact person has written a couple of 1-star reviews for us, because the same name. But Eric, along those lines, I just want to say, yes, we state things that you might think were just major Trump supporters. But actually, if you listen carefully, do we ever promote Trump? Are we
Nope.
doing Trump commercials? But it just makes me want to ask this question, Eric. So, whenever we vote every 4 years for president, how many choices do you usually have?
You typically have two.
Two? Yeah.
Well, when I say two, of course, when I and let me be clear what I mean by that is the average citizen has two, because even third party
Yeah.
is not really is not going to really be have a chance of winning. So,
Yeah.
but
So in other words,
we as conservatives unfortunately only have one choice.
yep,
If to answer your question.
true. So
And it actually doesn't really matter who's in that R seat, to be honest.
yeah, and a lot of people kind of get a little bit arrogant about that. Oh, you just vote one way because the R's next to their name or the D's next to their name. Actually, most people do that. But at the same time, what choice? What choice do you have if they're literally so? I mean, nearly polar opposites in some ways, right? Now, okay, well, I'm not getting to the nuance of particular candidates. I don't know if we've had a great president I don't believe we've had a great president in a long time. Now, I'm talking about a great president. There are
Since Reagan.
there are at least 10 politicians. That's just frank. Politicians are the one that make it far enough to get to a general election. There are about 10 that I would choose over Trump any freaking day. But so what we're a commercial for, if you're going to say that we're a Trump commercial, no, we're voting and we are, quote, campaigning for freedom. We're going to vote against the person that has clearly in this last several years attacked our freedoms. And what I care about is the candidate that most likely will not harm me economically, will not harm you, this country economically, will not try and stop me from making the choices I want in how I protect myself, like those AR 15s behind you, bro. And of course, bare minimum, the person that is president has pushed and pushed and pushed gun control. Again, like we said earlier, every time there's an unfortunate event, they literally jump to the chance. Sometimes it seems like it's gleefully. Sorry if that's offensive. And then again, I'll repeat it. There's not much freedom when you don't work for the federal government, but your company does some contracting to the federal government, and that administration sends down an edict telling my company I better take some medical treatment or I need to be fired. That's not the worst thing that can happen to you. You and I and Rich Brown talked about it, but that's pretty damn tyrannical.
Yeah, Aaron, and let me add that this individual that that put this 1-star review up, Aaron, it was the day after the Rich Brown episode.
Mm-hmm.
So let me also state that, and Aaron, to me, when it comes down to it, I don't care if we got individuals out there giving us 1-star ratings. Um, it's going to happen because of the content that we have. But this is a unique situation because, Aaron, this individual listens to us. So, and because the previous 1-star that this person, he or she, gave us, and this is the ironic side, is that this person said, great content, lose the politics. And Aaron, I did some research just because I was curious if I could find other reviews by this person. And I found another exact from that exact person, um, commenting on another tactical show, stating great content, gave him a 5-star and said, no, there's no great show and no politics. So, and again, Aaron, we know that we have individuals that are into the Second Amendment and, into firearms and self-protection that are not conservatives. And we say this all the time. We welcome all those individuals, but what I would implore this individual is, like you said, Aaron, we aren't Trump apologists because we rail against the current administration's policies that has made us less safe by his border policies and our economy. The average, if you look at the numbers, the average cost to individuals is 16% higher now. You know, and add to it what Director Ray said, that he can't pinpoint another time where we have higher threats.
So on that line, how I just don't understand how someone that listens to our show, a tactical show, that I don't know very many proponents of firearms, frankly, that are left or Democrat. I do know some, and one of them, I'm not going to mention their name, who is a great friend of ours. But I still don't understand how you can literally vote for someone that because they talk about it all the time. that wants you disarmed.
Well,
Okay, now they don't say completely disarmed right now, but every little thing, it's always a first step. Okay, after they get it passed, they say this was a great first step, or etc.
well, and Aaron,
It's net the end game is the peasants not being armed. If you think it's anything other than that, I'm sorry, you are wrong.
yeah, and Aaron, to me, so this individual is likely a police officer, and to me, how can a police officer right now,
Yeah.
in the this day and age of how the media vilifies law enforcement, um, and again, like all the things that we've enumerated on several shows, this person believes it's a Trump commercial. Just because we're absolutely against the current administration doesn't mean that. I mean, am I going to vote for Trump? Absolutely. Not because I am a diehard, I'm crazy about Trump. It's because it's an easy choice with the current state of the world right now. Because
Well,
Aaron,
that's
I'm
what
telling,
like I said, how many choices do we have?
yeah, and the
Usually it's approximately 2.
and Aaron, I stated this on the episode with Rich Brown. I look at all the current geopolitical disasters right now, and I absolutely place blame on the current administration on a lot of aspects of what's going on in the world.
Well, yeah,
Because
so not just
when you
making the United
portray, yep,
States not just making the United States less safe, making the rest of the world or major parts of the world less safe.
when you allow Iran to amass over $80 billion in liquid cash, what's going on in the world happens. You know, uh, whatever you think as far as being a MAGA, full MAGA commercial or whatever the person stated, if you can't see that as being a as existential threat to the world, then I feel bad for you. And I would ask this person, do you think that well, you're a supporter of your own Second Amendment rights and being a police officer that's not getting support by current politicians on the left? I mean, I guess I'm just going to say it. I guess the person is just simply obtuse. So I wasn't going to go there, but I don't get it, you know. So
Well, it was it was kind of funny, and at the same time, people that I don't want to talk too much more about this. It was just it baffles me that someone can be a supporter of self defense and protection and be offended by us talking about issues that affect our self defense rights and the dangers in our country.
yep.
That it, like you said, I don't understand it. That's
Yeah, and
enough.
and again, Aaron, the dangers for self defense, right? We've hit on them before, and we'll kind of close this out. Is between 30 and 44% of an increase in murder in between 2019 and 2020, and of course, we don't really know what the real numbers are when as the FBI's UCR numbers changed for 2022, 23. So, but anyway, I really honestly wanted to remain a little neutral in my thought process towards discussing this. And I'd like to say we would like to keep this listener aboard, but it's one of those things that I believe we have really good content and information out there, but I would just like this person to think critically, using reason, that being upset about our political content is is about what you stated, Aaron. It boils down to you cannot extricate politics from our freedoms of self-protection. You just can't. So,
Well, buddy, I think that's a good place to call it a night. Lots of fun. I still, I'll just say real quick, I still pinch myself sometimes. I never thought we would have a show like this, and to start it and then to get the support that we have, and the we're not a huge show, but we are not a small show either. We've got thousands and thousands of listeners, and we are blessed to have you all in the audience. So thank you all for listening and supporting us. Support our sponsors, Tenacor, Origin, Training Ground, and check out the links to our upcoming classes. And we will be rolling out more and more classes this year. So if
amen.
you want to train with the Tactical Twins and all the great friends that we have, we'll have a blast. I guarantee it. So check that stuff out.
And Aaron, I'll add, there's going to be a lot more combative stuff coming from yours truly.
Amen. Well, and I look forward to teaching in your town with you, teaching some of those classes. So, well, bro, you have a good night, man. I love you.
Love you too,
Take it
bro.
easy. Give Brody a hug for me, and then maybe pat that beagle on the head.
Will do, bro.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.